Hello and welcome. Today we've got our first full test with our Ginetta G55. We've already done a few laps to evaluate the car and enough for us to choose the G55 as our car for this championship. Now it's time to give the car a proper run and really acclimatise myself to the car and try and just see what it is I need to change for myself versus what I need to change on the car to bring it more towards me. And there will be things on both sides to do. So the default setup will definitely be on the side of safety. So there'll be some work to do there. But it would be quite arrogant to go in there and turn a few laps and then start changing stuff. It would be sensible to go in there, understand it, try and figure out what I need to do, what it needs to do differently, and then work together and sort of meet in the middle is, I think, the most sensible and humble way of doing it. So we've got a day at Campo Grande again. We're going to have just a hard-coded medium cloud setup. Let's go and see the car. So we've gone for the white and blue again. A bit of a homage to Shelby. Kind of like that layout. It worked well on the JCW, I thought. So yeah, this is going to be the car we're going to use and compete in. But before we get to there, let's walk before we start trying to run. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get trackside and let's turn a few laps. Okay, so here we are, trackside now. Let's go and have a little look at the base settings. So, jump into advanced. So, not that this means anything to me at this state, because, well, let's face it, it's all new to me. So, but it's nice to have a quick scan through, acclimatise myself to what the setup of the car is. So there's a couple of things that stand out straight away. So for example, the brake pressure is at 90%. I've seen that a lot with previous cars, and I tend to run it at 100. So that's something that I could certainly look at doing. That everything else is sort of relatively safe, and the rear downforce is, how many points have we got? So yeah, it's at 4. So it's about half. So yeah, sort of midway on there. Cambers are, yeah, that's all sort of sensible. The damping's quite stiff on the front, isn't it? So what does that go up to? Well, it goes a long way, doesn't it? Okay, right, okay. Yeah, so damping's sort of middle of the road. The rear damping looks, so what's that, 10 to 23? Okay, yeah, so damping's sort of half as well. So everything's sort of half, isn't it? Drivetrain, radiator is quite open, traction control and anti-lock brakes. So we'll be looking at that, I think, during the first few laps, trying to just get that down as far as I can and still feel comfortable. And then 6 clutches, that's relatively sensible as well. Preload, 120 newton meters, so normally goes up to about 500. It did for the Mini anyway. Yep, so bring it down to 120, so it's all the same. I'll just reset it. Right, okay, so everything's reset back to where they want it. Right, let's go get in the car. We'll stick to speed limits today, seeing as we're paying for the damage. There's going to be nothing glamorous about this. there never is in testing. So what I want to see is just me getting used to it and just doing nothing silly really. I would like to try and get the ABS and TC down during these laps. And we can also, whilst we're doing these early laps, we can have a look at the tyres and just see how they're behaving. It definitely needs sharpening on the front end. I mean, I'm not used to rear-wheel drive cars, but I can be pretty sure that that's a fair comment. Bit late there. Right, let's try turning the ABS down. Let's bring it down to 2. Just be sensible about it. It's nice that you can use the curbs. We saw that with the Mercedes, that you just couldn't use the curbs. It's a really nice trait for a race car to be compliant. Turn the TC down as well. They're down to 2 as well. At some point I'll probably turn both off just to see what happens, but I'm not ready for that yet. Turned in a bit late there. I mean, everything's feeling very sensible. A little bit on the safe side, but sensible. when we actually get into the real testing and not just the acclimatisation, will be I'll put more details on the screen so it's visible. But this is just about turning the laps, really. The nice thing is that it sort of feels like there's a lot of time to be bound, but yet there's no fundamental issues that need to be worked on or ironed out. Everything's working sensibly. It is just a matter of getting to know each other, really. And the only other car of the bunch that I could really say that about was the Camaro, and to an extent the Porsche as well. None of the others, they all had what I would say were fundamental issues. I mean, really, I mean, I'm comfortable enough that I could go racing in this now, really. Let's try turning the TC down to 1 and the ABS down to 1 as well and see what happens. Just a little bit at the back there, do you see that? Okay, so the rear, I think the brake bias is too far to the rear of the car. So let's try turning the ABS off and see what happens. It'll be interesting to see that after the pass left, how it handles that next little complex. That's my fault there, going a bit too quick in there. Yeah, it's just a little bit, it's starting to lock. Yeah, it was just there on the, yeah, when you're on a lock and trail braking in, the rear of the car starting to lock. Let's try it in this next corner. Yeah, so let's move the brake bias forwards. I think we're happy to do that. Let's go to 64. It's quite a big change, about a 5% change. Helps if you stay on the black bit, Andrew. Yeah, that's better. much more stable on the way into the corner now. Yeah, you see that? It didn't try and swap ends on me there. So brake bias needs to come forwards when we get back to the setup. That's fine. Let's try this in third. It's quite happy taking it. Impressive. Try to turn traction control off as well. Now I think I'll always, now while both are turned off, I think I'll always have them both on at least one in a race situation, always. But when you're understanding a car, it's a good thing to have the car as raw and natural as it can be, so that you know exactly what you're getting. There's nothing hidden at that point. I mean, we haven't got any ABS on, and you know, I'm not locking wheels or anything. So I'm also quite comfortable that we could increase that braking power as well, from 90 up to 100. I mean, what a brilliant sign though, that I can jump into this car and turn off both of the main assistances that it has completely, and just drive it. Bearing in mind as well that I'm not a rear wheel drive guy, I'm a front wheel drive guy. I'm used to being able to, if I get in trouble, kicking the throttle on and getting myself out of it. I don't have that luxury with this car. This car is making me feel very at home. I'm really, really impressed. I'm very happy with my choice. And I feel like I've made the right choice, and the car is doing absolutely nothing to make me feel any differently. The car is only confirming what I thought at the time on those first few evaluation laps. See what lap times we're doing. Wrong one. So I've done a 27.8. Now the world record around here is a 25 dead. So we're way off the pace, but I'm not worried about that at this stage. Now I'm not sure I've got a 25 dead in me, but I reckon I've got a 25 in me, but not with the car as it is now. And also, I'm not really interested in doing TT laps. That's not what these cars are about. These cars are about doing hour after hour after hour. See, it's got a lot of understeer there. When you really push it, it's got a lot of understeer. Oh, nearly. That's the first sign of actual I had to back off then. Even that taking far too much curb. It just goes okay. You've got no traction control on, we've got no ABS on. Although in that situation the ABS wouldn't make any difference, but we've got no traction control on. And it just went, alright, we'll deal with that. It's just such a user-friendly car to drive. What other screens do we have on the steering wheel? So let's go to the next one. What's the next one? What are these numbers here? So we've got, oh, that's fuel usage, okay. That's handy to know. So we're using 1.34 litres a lap. Consistently by the looks of it, and we've got 8.3 litres left. Okay, and then this is tyre. Oh, and tyre temperature. There we go. So we got the right front's working harder than the right rear. Looking at that by quite a bit. The front's hotter than the rears, which doesn't surprise me. I'd like to try and get that down a little bit so that they were more even. I'm not surprised to see the rights being used much more heavily. Obviously it's a predominantly left-hand circuit. And brakes are, I'd say, where they probably should be, really. But we could maybe open up the front brake ducts a little bit to try and help out the front tyre temperatures, maybe. I've heard that that's a thing. So that's an avenue we could look at. See if can we get the telemetry HUD up? One sec. Where are we? Ah, you can't quite see it. Ah, gutting. That's a shame. That's a shame. I'll see if I can figure out a way of showing you the tyre temperatures. It helps if you look where you're going. What a donkey. Anyway, well, that's a good time to stop anyway, I think. So, that's a pretty good time to stop anyway. We've done sort of 20 odd litres of fuel there, I think, so. Sorry lads, you got a bit of a clean up job to do, I'm afraid. Yeah, so, let's get back to the... That's it. Right. So, first things first then, let's get the brake balance to... Oh, wrong way. Sorry. Let's get it to 64, because that's where it wanted to be. And we'll set these down to just 1. Now, I'm quite happy with that there. That's absolutely fine. We'll leave the fuel as it is, but when we get into proper testing, I'm going to have to start using like a full tank of fuel. Speaking of which, what is a full tank of fuel? Oh, endurance races, here we come. Wow, okay, so we've got 108 litres and we were running, what's it, 26, so crikey. Right, we're looking at a good 85, 90 kilos of extra weight in the car. That'll be interesting to see how that handles that. So I don't need to worry about the diff at the moment. That aspect of it seems to be absolutely fine. Not sure about tyre pressures yet, but I need to figure out a way of being able to display that to you so you can see it. Because at the moment, because I'm on a super wide screen, it spaces them out so that they're just beyond what you can see. I mean, I can bingo call it so you can hear what they are. That might have to be what I do. Yeah, so brake pressure, let's get that up to 100 as well. Yeah. Right, okay. So, not going to worry about the suspension and stuff yet, but looking at it, it won't surprise me if I drop the anti-roll bar down and the front damping down, and probably reduce the bump stops, but I don't know if they're running on the bump stops yet, so there's a whole load of presumptions in there, but that wouldn't surprise me if that's the road I went down at some point. But we're sort of verging on a bit of arrogance there, aren't we? So let's yeah, so everything that's there now, with the exception of the brake pressure, is all stuff that we've actually done and proven to be okay and better. So I think let's drop that rear downforce a couple of points and just see if that helps the front on the faster corners. And then, because that very fast left is the very fast left, it definitely pushes, so I think it's the right thing to do there. And on the slower corners it also pushes, but there's obviously more things going on in the mechanical side of things, whereas with the aero it's pretty simple, you know. It's like, well, I haven't got a front downforce, so let's reduce the rear a little bit and see if we can get the aero balance better that way. We've already got a 15mm difference in ride height, so I don't really want to have any more rake than that, really, if I can help it. Right, well, let's go and give that a go anyway. I'm just going to see how that feels. And I mean, if nothing else, it's just turning laps. But what's really nice is that the car makes me feel so at home that the acclimatisation side of it, I don't think it's not going to take long. We're already like good mates, you know. So it's such a good communicator, and it's not fighting me in any way. It's working with me every step of the way. So I'm quite happy to sort of make these smaller changes and just keep driving around, really. But that's the thing, is that testing is, like I said earlier, it's not glamorous in any way. It's just putting the miles in. So I think as well, when I start dialing the front end in, because it does need to be more aggressive on the front. When I start dialing that in, I think we'll actually see a reduction in temperatures on the tyres. Certainly the fronts and rears evening out. Yeah, it's still quite early, but the front end feels a bit better on that fast left, but it might be a bit too early to judge that one. We're still not quite there on tyre temperatures, so let's see how it is. Probably another 2 laps looking at that. Right front's at 79 degrees, so, and it was in the 90s, wasn't it, before? That's the other thing as well, is that I don't know what the tyre temperatures should be. So, you know, there's so much to learn, there's so much to understand. But I'm really excited because, although my voice doesn't really portray excitement very well, but I'm really excited because the car is just an absolute joy to drive. And it's like I'm doing it in something that's working with me, not against me. Bit of a funny line there, isn't it? A little bit of understeer there. Yeah, it seems like second or third through that corner onto this straight. Yeah, it feels better with the reduced wing on the back. Felt like a good lap, that one. So 26.22. Oh, that's not a bad lap, is it? We're sort of getting there now, aren't we? We're making progress. And that's as much to do with me as it is the car, really. We're both sort of getting to know each other still. But I do feel happy now to kind of work on the setup, really. And I never thought I'd be saying that after, what, 17 laps. I mean, if I was used to rear-wheel drive, I'd go, yeah, 17 laps, that's more than enough. But I've only driven front-wheel drive cars in this game. That's all I drove. The two Minis, the two 65 Coopers, and the JCW. That's all I drove. So this is completely new to me. Oh, easy, Tiger. Oops. Yeah, so it's completely new to me, and I was expecting this an awful lot more. And that was just me getting greedy on the throttle. That's all it was. Just me being a bit too happy, getting a bit too overconfident, touching the curb and being a bit overzealous on the throttle. So let's get back into the pits. Right. So we've got 26.2. Yeah, and the world record is a 25.0. So, you know, we've got 26 litres of fuel on board. So I reckon that's about 0.3, 0.4 of a second, do you reckon, give or take? Just on weight alone. So, you know, we're not doing too badly, really, I don't think. And we haven't even looked at tyre pressures yet. I'm gonna put the other HUD on. In fact, let's do that now. Let's go options. Where are we? Edit HUD layout. Nope, not that one. Not that one. What do we want? Controls, cockpit, gameplay, display. There we go. Telemetry. There we go. Right. So that should hopefully give us the telemetry we want. Right. So let's go advanced. I'm gonna knock that down to 1 again, actually. Excuse me. Suspension. I'm going to drop the anti-roll bar down to 1, and I'm going to reduce the bump and the rebound on the damping a lot. It went down to 19, because what's the overall? It was about 50, wasn't it? 50. So we've got the softest spring on. We've got spring 1 of 2. So if you were on spring 2, you would be probably looking at about sort of 29, I think, to be sort of middle of the road. And then for spring 1, I think you want to be on about 19, because obviously a softer spring is not going to be able to overcome as much damping. So yeah, I think 19 puts us about middle of the road for spring 1. We've got, I mean, the rear of the car doesn't really feel that bad, to be honest. Quite happy with the toe angle. And at the moment, I'm quite happy with how it's turning. So if say it was really struggling to rotate around the back of the car, so you're turning the wheel and it just feels like it can't rotate the rear wheels, you know, I would loosen off the preload of the diff so that the rear wheels could rotate at different speeds easier. So the tighter, the higher the value of the preload, the more the rear wheels are sort of connected together, and so it's not as free for them to rotate at different speeds. The clutches only come into play when it's under torque. So when you get on the throttle and they're being driven, the clutches sort of lock them together, and the more clutches you have, the more aggressively and the more it locks together. But again, I mean, I spun it just there, but I was being a bit overconfident, really. And I did just come off the curb, so I can explain away why that happened, and it was basically driver error. So I'm quite happy with the clutches being as they are. I don't think there's anything there to be concerned about. Radiator opening, I mean, I don't know at this point. I need to do a bit more research, I think, to find out what sort of temperatures it should be running at. And but obviously the less we can make that number, the more efficient the car will be through the air, and the faster it will be. And we know that the car's got a straight line speed issue, so that would only help as well. And cambers, we haven't even looked at cambers yet. So yeah, there's a number of things, the front ducts and the rear duct openings for the brakes. We may be able to, if the front brakes are running in a nice green temperature, we may be able to run those a little bit more open, maybe, so that then we can then help the front tyres out a little bit for temperature. But yeah, there's a number of things we can look at. So let's go and see how that feels. I reckon that'll be quite a big change. That'll be quite interesting to see how that works out. Yeah. Excuse me. Right, so I've got the telemetry HUD up. Unfortunately, you're not able to see it, but I'll just bingo call what I'm seeing to you. Obviously, at the moment, everything's blue. I will put I'll put the tyre temperatures and the brake temperatures on the steering wheel dash for you, so at least you can see something. Now the early signs are that it's made quite a big difference, and I think again positive really that the car is so reactive to setup change. Even though the tyres aren't up to temperature yet, it does feel different. So we can't really do anything just yet anyway, we just need to keep turning the laps until the tyres are up to temperature. And look where you're going helps as well. Yeah, it's definitely more positive. So we'll judge the tyre pressures on the right hand side tyres for now. And what you're looking for with the tyre pressures is, if you're, let's say you've got a 10 degrees difference between the inside and the outside of the front tyre. To get the tyre pressure right, you want the middle tyre temperature to be 75, to be basically in the middle of the difference. If you have it, if it's higher than that, then it means that the tyre is overinflated and it's kind of ballooned outwards, and it's therefore running more in the middle of the tyre patch, contact patch. If it's underinflated, you'll see the temperature is lower than 75, or lower than the halfway point of the inside and outside temperatures. And that means that it's underinflated, and it's sort of dipped in the middle. So if you think of it like sort of concave and convex. So we want the middle temperature to be middle of the tyre, that temperature to be in the middle of the difference between the inside and the outside temperature. Now, so the right front is currently 82 on the inside and 79 on the outside, and the middle temperature is at 81. So that tells me we're a little bit overinflated, because we're not really running, they're only at 82. So we could afford to drop that down a bit, and that will help the front end as well. So inside is 85, middle is 84, outside is 82. Yeah, so it's constantly just a little bit too high. So the front tyres are slightly overinflated. The right rear is 78 across the board, so we probably want to increase the camber a little bit as well. Right, let's push a bit hard and let's get them into the 90s, certainly the front anyway. Right, inside 92, middle 91, outside 88 on the front, rear 85, 84, 83, so pressures probably aren't too bad on the rear, but the fronts are definitely too high, which is great because it gives us a bit more ability to dial more front end in. Right, let's do that now. I'm quite happy to do that now, really. See what I mean now about the testing just not being glamorous in any way, shape or form? It's yeah, it's good fun, but it's yeah, there's no glory about it. So we can drop that down. I'm going to drop that down to 1.45. It might be a bit too far, to be fair. And 1.6, I'm going to leave that alone. But I am going to increase or decrease, depending on your view of it, the rear camber. Let's go to 2.2. And the fronts, they didn't have that much difference on the front either. So let's increase that to 3.6. Yeah. Let's see how that changes the equation. And actually, let's have a look as well and see if I can we move the... Oh, we can't. That's a shame. I was hoping we could move the corners of the HUD in, but we can't. So I'm afraid you're just going to have to be stuck with me bingo calling it, I'm afraid. But I've got to say, I've already done a lot more in this video than I was expecting to do. And I would say that that's a credit to the car, really. I suppose I should say, so with the inside, middle, outside temperatures, ignoring the middle one for the moment, I'm looking for about a difference of 8 degrees on the front and about 5 degrees on the rear. And you wouldn't be the first to ask, well, surely you want them to be all the same, don't you? Well, yes and no. So I can't give you the exact reasons why, because honestly, I don't know, and I'm not going to feed you misinformation. But it is a commonly known thing among the racing community that tyre temperatures, you should set the car up so that the inside, at the end of it, when you come into the pits, the inside of the wheel or the inside tyre temperature should be higher than the outside. And my understanding is that in AMS2 you're looking for about 8 degrees difference on the front and about 5 on the rear. And then you use the tyre pressure to get the middle temperature in the middle of the two. So in that way, you know, it's a pretty straightforward, simple thing to understand and work out. It's not like other games where you have a certain pressure to meet. That's just not realistic in any way, shape or form. It's not how it is in real life. It's, you know, it's a bit weird, but at the end of the day you are playing a game, so you play the game, don't you? But in AMS2 it works by the inside outside difference and in the middle being the split between the two. Easy. So actually, I think I'm running on the bump stops here. I think I'm actually running on the front bump stops. Looking at the telemetry there. So the travel was almost down to 0. And I don't know for certain, but I would imagine that that means that you're then at that point running on your stops. And I don't really want to be doing that, because if you're running on the stops like that, you're gonna lose. Well, the suspension's going to lose the ability to soak up bumps. Now, a bump stop isn't a solid. It's not a solid thing. It's an extra. If you think of it like a rubber stopper, if you like, and so the suspension will travel so far, and then it will run into this rubber stopper, which has still got a little bit of give, but nowhere near as much as what the spring has got up to that point. So its spring rate effectively increases massively. But you can adjust how long that stop is, so you can adjust at what point the suspension actually comes into contact with it. And I think it's just coming into contact with it a bit too soon for my liking. Right, so 94, 92, 90 on the front. So we've only got a 4 degrees difference, so not a big difference, but the tyre pressure is smack in the middle, so the tyre temperature is smack in the middle for the front, which is great. Right, what's the rear doing? Bear with. So let me get these corners out of the way. 84, 83, 82. Oh, 84, 84, 82. So the rear pressures are a bit high as well. Now the left front has got 78 on the inside and 70 on the outside. So we have an 8 degrees difference on the left front. So I'm half tempted to not really do any more to the camber. I don't really want to go any more than that. '95, '93, '91. So we can actually probably go down a little bit on the front again as well. So I'm going to go down, we'll come into the pits after this lap. I'm going to drop the tyre pressures down a bit further. And we'll reduce those front bump stops a little bit. But I need to be careful with the bump stops because they sort of prevent the car from bottoming out on the straight. So I'll have to definitely do a high fuel run at some point. Because let's face it, the car isn't going to run with 26 litres of fuel in it very often. I mean, it's really quite light compared to what it's going to be running at. I am quite surprised I've only seen the dirt a couple of times. I thought I'd have seen it a lot more than that. Right, let's go and jump back into the setup. Right, so let's drop the tyre pressures down. Let's go to 1.4. How much further can we go? Oh, that is as far as we can go. Okay. And we'll drop this down to 1.55. And then bump stops. Let's knock that down to 10. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. And I think steering lock might be something that's quite helpful as well. Might look at that if we still feel like we want a bit more. But I've got a feeling this is going to... So what this will do, the front of the car will be able to dip. So if you get on the brakes, for example, the front of the car will be able to travel, the suspension will be able to travel further. So the front of the car can essentially dip further into its suspension, which then lowers the front ride height, which then gives you a bigger rake, if you like, and then more front end grip and less on the rear. So it will basically move weight off the rear and onto the front. So the whole car balance will be more front endy. So yeah, that will be that's going to be, I think that's going to be quite a powerful change, especially if I'm right in what I think, which is that it's actually using them a little bit too much. So that will just allow it just to dip in a bit further and just hopefully bite into the circuit a bit more. I might just increase the rear camber a fraction more. Let's go 2.4, just to see if we can get a few more degrees difference. This HUD with the telemetry on it is very, very helpful. And if it's not something you're used to using, I would, and if you're into setups, it's worth looking at. I mean, you can get apps that show you traces, and so it's no longer telemetry at that point, it's then data acquisition. But I mean, this is almost sort of like a halfway house between old school and doing it the new fashioned way. However, if you were even doing it the old school way, you'd still be able to come back into the pits and measure your tyre temperatures. So, which you can't do in the game without this. This is basically replacing that. And where it's better is that you get to see it whilst you're on the circuit. You got to be careful you don't take things too far, but that's generally how I do it. I will take it to the direction I feel it needs to go in, get it to where it feels nice, go a little bit further, and then probably come back again just a little bit. But I think it's important that you do take it that little bit further, just so that you know that it's where it needs to be. Yeah, so now I've got a bit more, now the travel value is a bit higher. Oh, did I hear it touching the ground then? I think I heard it touch the ground. keep an ear out for that on the next lap. Now, granted though, the tyres aren't really up to full temperature yet, so that's going to essentially lower the ride height a little bit because the pressures won't be quite as high. So the tyre is going to squish a bit more. Right, let's listen out for this now. No, okay. Maybe it was the TC I heard and just got a little bit confused. Right, okay. Let's just focus on putting some laps in now. Focus on the driving a little bit more. Actually feels like it's still a bit pushy. Tyre temperature's gone up and the pressure, okay. Okay, I think I've gone a bit too far on the tyre pressures. We have gone a little bit faster, but it's not as nice. Let's knock it back a bit and just see, rather than trying to set good times, let's knock it back and see how it handles it. See, that one pass lap really does make the front tyre suffer. It really does make it suffer. Got a little bit of push on the throttle there. I think I might try reducing that diff preload a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely pushing the front quite hard there, but we set 3 or 4 sensibly quick laps in there. What are we down to now time wise? 26.0. Okay. So we're a second off world record TT time. With 26 litres of fuel on board on day 1. I think we can be quite happy with this. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to increase the tyre pressure on the front a little bit. Just a little bit. Might reduce the rear a little bit further as well. So increase the front a little bit, reduce the rear a little bit. I might just increase that bump stop a little bit as well. Just a little bit more. I think I've gone a bit too far with that. Excuse me. So let's increase the bump stop to 12. Let's increase that to 1.45. Drop that down to 1.5. No, let's drop that to 1.43. 1.52. I'm going to try increasing the front brake ducts just to try and reduce the front tyre temperature just a little bit. We'll leave the rear at 50 for now. Drivetrain, let's drop that down to, let's go down to 80. It's quite a big change that, I'd have thought, so don't want to go too far with it. I'd like to do steering lock as well, but if I do steering lock as well as diff preload, I'm going to struggle to tell the difference between the two, because if I increase the steering lock, it's going to have a very similar effect to what the diff preload is going to do. So, excuse me, I'm quite happy to do the diff preload and the tyre pressures and the bump stop together, because I know what the bump stop's going to do because I've already gone too far with it. So I know going back a little bit, I know what sort of effect that's going to have. And we know that the tyre pressures is just a matter of getting things where they need to be. And this front duct is just a matter of trying to help that front tyre temperature a little bit. So I think this is, although it's a combination, and normally you'd only change one thing at a time, I'm quite happy to do this combination of things because I'm kind of happy that I can identify each item separately. And again, testament to the car that it's made me feel that comfortable that I feel able to do that as well, which I've been a little bit bowled over by that. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll do this little suite of changes now, and then depending on how the car feels, if it still feels a bit washy on the front or not quite responsive enough, I might just increase that steering lock a little bit and just see how that works. And then after that, we're sort of looking at reducing this damping a little bit more. But I just want to get that front end just a little bit sharper, so that so what I'm looking for, I'm looking for the front end to be driven into the corner, not slid into the corner. I want to drive it in and I want to drive it out. I don't want to have to be playing with the car. Just really nice, smooth. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking to do endurance races. So I want the car to be as efficient as it can possibly be, and that means very, very little in the way of sliding. So slip and sliding are different. So you need slip angles to be able to move the car around, to even actually just sort of maneuver it from corner to corner. But so you need slip, you don't need slide. So slip becomes slide very, very quickly, and we want to cut that down to the bare minimum. We want to make everything as efficient as it can possibly be. That is what endurance racing is. That's what we're looking for here. So let's try this little suite of changes. It's going to be quite a long video, this one. But this is part of racing, you know. This is a massive part of racing. In fact, actually, this is a bigger part of racing than the actual racing part of racing. Bit too eager there, Andrew. Not quite ready for that yet. Those little slides out of corners, that's on me, that is. I need to sort that out. That's me coming from front wheel drive and being hard on the throttle to get it out the corner. And I need to sort that out. Yeah, that I need to sort out. And it's really not much more than just a matter of timing. I'm sort of on the throttle and turning, and I'm not straightening the car up soon enough. I need to V the corner off a bit more, so that then when I really get on the throttle, the car is more straight rather than still turning. But again, it's really nice that the car is giving me that information in such a user-friendly way that, you know, essentially a noob to it can identify it for what it is. Easy. For a fairly untidy lap, it's still just as quick as the fastest we've been, so I'm not unhappy with this. We're definitely making progress. So that's the fastest we've been then. Might be in the 25s now. Yep, just. So we're in the 25s now. It feels like I would like to try that increased steering lock. It'd be a shame not to, really. We're here, aren't we? Still got a fairly big change, sorry, a big difference between front and rear pressures though. Not pressure, I keep saying pressures, temperatures. About 6-7 degrees difference between the front and the rear. Don't really want to run any more camber because we're 11 degrees different on the left front, but we're only 5 degrees different on the right front. We're 2 degrees different on the right rear, we're 7 degrees different on the left rear, so I think camber's probably where it needs to be. So let's have a little look, let's see what options we've got. So I think pressures are probably, they're not a million miles away. I don't think there's any point messing around with those anymore. Don't think there's any point changing. I mean, we could try opening the front a bit further, but didn't really seem to make a whole lot of difference to the temperatures, to be honest. So I'm not actually sure that is effective or not. I might check that with Mark Collins, see what he says on that one. I'll let you know his answer. So don't know enough about caster really yet to worry about that just yet. But what are the options? So we can go up another 1.2 degrees. Okay, and down another 2. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't really feel like that's where I know what caster does and I know the effects it's going to have, but I don't really feel like that's where our problem is. It might help the difference in. It might help the difference in. So, if I increase the caster angle, when I turn the wheel, the outside wheel will gain more negative camber, and the inside wheel will gain more positive camber. So that would even out our tyre temperatures a bit better. It would give us a. Well, it might be worth looking at actually. That might be worth looking at. I want to increase this first though, so let's bring that up to 25. So, because that's what I said I was going to do. Let's make it 26, seeing as we're there already. So, what the steering lock will do, so 90 degrees on the wheel is still 90 degrees on the steering wheel on the car, but the amount that the wheels have moved will be more now than what it was. So, with 26 degrees, the wheels will move more than what they would have done with the previous setting of 22. So it's basically the ratio between your steering wheel movement and the wheel's physical movement, the angle change. So yeah, increasing the steering lock will basically mean that you'll get more degrees change per degree of steering wheel movement. Yeah, all right. I don't think. I mean, even if I stopped now, that would be a pretty good night's work, really. I'm quite happy with this. So let's get out there and see. What I'm hoping for is a more positive car. So a car that, when I turn it in, it's more like a go-kart in that it goes, it's straight in there, and it loads up the suspension really quickly, really early, and it doesn't delay the amount of time it takes. It might go too far. It might now be too reactive, and then the tyres slide rather than bite. But we'll see. It's definitely more reactive. I should expect it to be. I'm just wondering if I've gone a bit too far with it. So you should see me use less lock around here, which is definitely the case. Oh, that's actually really quite nice. But that doesn't mean to say that the tyres are that the wheels are turned less. It just means that I'm having to turn the steering wheel less to achieve the same angle on the actual wheels. So it's not that they're scrubbing less. Bit late on the brake set. Car took it well though. I continue to be impressed by the car. Yeah, I'm quite happy with this change. It's not night and day different, but it's nice. Nice. That's a pretty. That's quite a big chunk off there. 0.124. So what's our lap time now? We must be in the 0.8s then now. 25.8. That's awesome. I wasn't expecting this tonight. Right, let's I just want to try. I'm going to leave the caster for tonight because that's the sort of change I think I need to do, possibly in a TT environment and chasing a ghost. TT has its place, and that's what it is for me. But yeah, I think the caster change would be, I think going up on caster, increasing it from 7 to say 7.5, that will probably, I think that might just help a little bit, and we might be able to then reduce the amount of camber then as well. Possibly, but we'll see. We'll see. The trouble with So the downside to caster is that as you turn the wheel, it kind of jacks the inside rear wheel up. So the inside rear wheel then gets a bit lighter. So I don't really want to have to increase it if I can help it. If anything, I'd like to reduce it so that it was so that it kept the rear of the car more stable. Then I have a bit more traction. That might actually reduce that little kick of oversteer. So that's why I'm so reluctant to change it, because the car's sort of feeling like it might want to go, so it's got more caster, but I'm also got the feeling that actually I could benefit from going less. And I think it's one of those things I need to do during a time trial style scenario. What I would like to do though, just want to drop these down a bit further. So this, I'm hoping, is going to allow the front, so it's going to reduce the damping strength, so it should allow the front to dip a little bit faster. So whereas before we had the bump stops and we dropped them down, we went a bit too far. So now it might sit on the bump stops a bit faster. Now we've increased the bump stops from 10 to 12. It might land on those bump stops a little bit quicker, but it won't change. So if you increase or decrease the damping, it doesn't change how much the suspension moves. It just changes the rate that it moves. It will still end up at the same place as what it would have done with a stiffer damping, but if you reduce the damping, it will just get there a bit quicker. And if you increase the damping, it will get there a little bit slower. So you're just controlling the rate at which the weight moves onto that tyre, basically. That's what you're doing. And you do that just to get the timing right, so that the car balance is where you want it to be when you need it to be there. And that's what the damping is for. You use that to control the speed, and so that the timing of things is where you need it to be. Right. Let's make this the last run of the night, because it's been an hour and 36 minutes so far. So let's make this the last run. It's been a really, really good night though. And as well, shout out to the circuit as well, I think, is worthy, because it's been absolutely brilliant. Yeah, brilliant testing circuit, this one. That's what spun the Merc, that is. That's a good comparison, that. So I was on that curb a lot more than I was with the Mercedes, and the Mercedes spun in a heartbeat, and this looked after me and kept me out of trouble. I just cannot believe how good this car is. Really impressed. Front end's maybe a little bit too aggressive now. So damping is a very, very powerful change on this car. Good to know. I've gone a bit too far there. Yeah. So you see there, the back of the car was just a little bit loose on the way in. So I've got a choice now. I could increase the front bump, or I could increase the rear rebound a little bit. So if I increase the rear rebound a little bit, it will reduce the speed at which the rear lifts, or reduce the rate at which the rear of the car lifts. Yeah, I think I need to increase the front damping a little bit again. I've just taken it a bit too far, I think, which is fine. That's what this is all about. That's why we test. Yeah, but 2 laps there, which were 2 of the best laps of the night, so I haven't got to change it very much. Right, this will be the last lap now. This will be the in lap now. Also as well, I think that, yeah, so some of the changes we've made tonight have made it a bit more sensitive on the curbs. So there's something to be looked at there. But this is a good start off a 10. I really wasn't expecting to get so much done tonight. Let's park up. Alright, take that off. Ugh. Oh dear. Yeah, so really, really good night that. We got a lot done there, didn't we? So yeah, we've changed a lot of stuff. We changed tyre pressures, we changed brake pressure, brake bias, we changed the front duct opening, we left the rear as it was. Dropped the rear downforce quite a bit, that definitely helped on the fast corner. I'm glad we did that. The caster we've got to look at still. The Cambers, yeah, it's such a left hand turn bias circuit, this one, that we're probably better off working on Cambers somewhere else, to be fair. I haven't really played with ride height much. Didn't touch the springs, did we? They left them alone. Didn't really feel the need to either. Bump stops we did change on the front. The damping's dropped a lot on the front. Increased the rear camber a little bit. Ride height at the rear stayed the same. Spring rate stayed the same, so a bit more to work on there. A few more things to test. Even if it doesn't work, even if I don't really feel like I need to do it, it's still worth doing it just to see the effect that it has. The bump stop was left the same, and the bump and rebound, I believe, were started off as 10 as well, so I don't think we touched those either. The steering lock we've increased a little bit. That might have gone a bit too far. Let's knock that back to 25. The toe angle on the front we didn't change. The roll bar we dropped from 3 to 1. The toe angle at the rear didn't change. I don't really want to increase it. I don't really want to decrease it. That's kind of nice where it is. Anti-roll bar we didn't touch. That's something we could do. What does it go up to? Only goes up to 4. I don't want to max it out really. Not a fan of maxing settings out if I can help it. Yeah. Drivetrain. The traction control and anti-lock brakes were a big one. Radiator opening, I need to do some research on that to see. Need to do a high fuel run as well, so there's another test session to be done to do a really long run and see how that. But I want to get the setup more dialed in first, then do a really long run and see how it works out over the course of a distance and a set of tyres. And the diff preload we dropped, the clutches we didn't touch. Didn't feel the need to touch the clutches beyond that. So yeah, all very, very good stuff. So yeah, thank you very much to Campo Grande. Really excellent circuit for testing. If you're looking for a test track, it's very, very good, clearly. And yeah, thank you, Ginetta, for giving me an absolutely brilliant little car to drive. I'm so impressed with it. I'm really, really impressed. So yeah, anyway, it's an hour and 47 now, plus a little bit extra. So yeah, I think it's time to bid you a good night. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting. And until the next test, we'll see you later.